You know how it goes. You hear a story, it gets passed around, maybe exaggerated a bit, and suddenly it's one of those urban legends, those spooky, unbelievable tales we tell each other.
Right, the kind of thing you hear around a campfire.
Exactly. We usually just dismiss them, right? Campfire fodder.
Yeah.
But what if some of those outrageous, really creepy stories actually had, like, a kernel of truth? What if they were, well, completely real?
That's exactly the dark alley we're venturing down today. We've taken a stack of your sources, articles, research, basically decades of whispered fears, and we're delving right into those very stories.
Okay.
Our mission, really, is to unearth the most shocking facts, maybe some surprising insights about these urban legends that turned out to be chillingly, definitively true.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Pull back the curtain. Get ready to question everything you thought you knew about what's real and what's just a scary story.
Because sometimes, the monster under the bed really is out there.
So we're starting with something that's, well, it's a parent's ultimate nightmare. The local boogeyman. That figure that becomes the focus of our deepest kind of primal fears.
And what's truly unsettling about these figures is how often the legend truly manifested in some way. Take the Staten Island legend of Cropsey.
Cropsey, right.
Yeah. It painted this terrifying picture: an escaped mental patient, maybe with a hook hand, kidnapping and murdering children in the abandoned tunnels of Seaview Hospital.
Classic creepy stuff.
Totally. But the chilling truth is there was a real boogeyman figure, Andre Rand. He was a janitor at the infamous Willowbrook State School.
Oh, Willowbrook, that place was.
Yeah, exactly. A national scandal in the 70s, child abuse, horrific conditions. Well, Rand was convicted for kidnapping children, and he's still in prison today, eligible for parole in, I think, 2037?
So the legend wasn't just pulled out of thin air. There was a real person, real crimes.
Spot on. And that's the thing, isn't it? The idea of a boogeyman isn't always some simple, grotesque figure.
Right. Sometimes it takes on different disguises, even something seemingly innocent. It makes me think of Homie the Clown from Illinois.
Ah, Homie the Clown.
Yeah, the legend described a man dressed as this clown driving a white van near elementary schools, supposedly luring kids with candy and money.
And that's where the real horror behind the, let's call it fiction, becomes clear. While the specific Homie the Clown details might be exaggerated folklore, the underlying fear connects directly to John Wayne Gacy.
Gacy, of course.
Killed over 40 young men and boys in the Chicago area, and one of his side jobs, dressing up as Pogo the Clown for kids' parties. That's horrifying.
It really shows us how deeply real-life monsters can shape our collective fears, right? Turning an innocuous figure like a clown into this symbol of absolute terror.
Yeah, our fears get sort of codified, passed down. And speaking of unsettling figures, let's talk about the Bunny Man from Virginia.
The Bunny Man, Fairfax County. Yeah, this really bizarre legend of a threatening man in a bunny suit wielding an axe, supposedly responsible for murders, mutilated animals. It sounds like a bad horror film plot.
It does, but what's fascinating here is the kernel of truth, even if it didn't quite escalate to murder in the way the legend says.
Okay, so what did happen?
Well, in October 1970, the Washington Post actually reported on a man in bunny suit sought in Fairfax.
No way.
Yes. There were two separate incidents, only a week apart. A man, dressed in a bunny suit, threw a hatchet into a couple's car windshield, threatening them for trespassing.
Whoa, so not a serial killer maybe,
But a very real axe-wielding man in a bunny suit did terrorize people, and that alone is unsettling enough to fuel a local legend for decades,
That's wild. Absolutely wild. And, sometimes the urban legend isn't a killer or even overtly threatening like that. Sometimes it's just someone living right under our noses, unseen, for decades.
Right, like the case of the Maine Hermit, Christopher Knight.
The Maine Hermit. Tell us about that.
Okay, so residents of North Pond, Maine noticed for years this constant, inexplicable disappearance of small items, like peanut butter, apples, batteries, propane tanks. Not super valuable things, but it happened consistently, thousands of times over the year.
Thousands. Just little things vanishing.
Exactly. And the truth is just stranger than fiction. Christopher Knight, at age 20, purposely walked into the woods, stranded himself, and lived there for 27 years.
27 years. Without contact.
Without any other human contact. He survived by stealing what he needed from nearby cabins. When they finally caught him in 2013, he admitted to averaging about 40 robberies a year.
Wow. The dedication to isolation is almost unbelievable.
It really speaks to the extraordinary, almost unfathomable lengths some individuals will go to for absolute isolation.
Yeah.
Imagine nearly 3 decades completely off the grid, sustained only by what you can, take from your neighbors.
It's incredible the kind of quiet, unseen lives people can lead. And speaking of reclusive figures, but with a much more tragic backstory, there's Charlie Nooface, also known as the Green Man from Pennsylvania.
Ah, Charlie Nooface. Yeah, the Pittsburgh area legend painted him as like a ghost or monster.
Right.
Or maybe a factory worker horribly disfigured as a child. The stories varied.
So what was the real story?
The reality of Charlie Nooface, his real name was Raymond Robinson, is actually a heartbreaking example of how a tragic accident morphed into a local spooky legend.
Okay.
He was a real man from Big Beaver, Pennsylvania, horribly disfigured at age 8. He was severely burned by high voltage when he tried to climb an inoperative trolley line. Trying to see a bird's nest, I think the story goes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he lost his eyes, his nose, and his lips and ears were badly disfigured. He wanted fresh air, apparently, but knew his appearance would frighten people, so he started walking the local roads, but only at night.
Just trying to live his life, basically.
Exactly. But over time, people began to drive out specifically to try and see him. It became this weird local thing. Some even brought him cigarettes and beer. So this solitary figure became this kind of eerie local fascination, this monster people went looking for.
That's just, a stark reminder of how human tragedy can get twisted into folklore. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about stories that involve some truly gruesome discoveries. The kind of thing that makes you check your hotel mattress maybe twice.
You're definitely referring to the legend of the body under the bed, right?
That's the one.
Yeah, where hotel guests check into a room, maybe notice a bad smell, only to eventually discover a dead body stashed away, either under the bed frame or sometimes inside the mattress itself.
It sounds like the setup for a really cheap horror movie. Does this actually happen?
What's chilling about this one is that it's not just an isolated incident. It's a kind of traveling tale that has been confirmed multiple times.
Seriously. Confirmed.
Absolutely. There are at least a dozen newspaper stories detailing incidents where hotel rooms basically doubled as body disposal sites. In Atlantic City, back in 1999, a couple literally slept on a mattress that contained a dead body.
Oh my God.
And in 2010, guests at a budget lodge in Memphis discovered they had been sleeping directly above the body of Sony Millbrook, a missing person. The body was hidden between the mattress foundation and the floor, with fabric softener sheets stuffed in the ceiling tiles nearby to try and mask the smell.
Fabric softener.
Yeah. Her boyfriend was eventually convicted. It just shows how easily the mundane, like checking into a hotel, can turn incredibly macabre.
That idea of a gruesome hidden discovery.
Yeah.
It truly makes you reconsider what might be lurking just out of sight.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of unexpected places for a body, what if a prop in a haunted house wasn't just a prop at all?
You're talking about the corpse prop from California.
Let's uncover the shocking truth behind that one.
This is genuinely one of the most unbelievable ones. So it's 1976. A film crew is at the Pike Amusement Park in Long Beach, California. They're shooting a scene on one of the spooky rides.
Oh. Yeah.
During filming, they accidentally bumped a hanged mannequin prop, and its arm actually broke off.
Oh.
And it revealed real skin and bone underneath the paint.
Wow.
Yes. It wasn't a prop at all. It was the actual mummified corpse of an outlaw and train robber named Elmer McCurdy.
Elmer McCurdy. How did he end up there?
Well, he was killed in a shootout way back in 1911. After his death, nobody claimed his body. So the undertaker embalmed him really well and started, basically charging people to see the bandit who wouldn't give up.
You put him on display.
Yeah. Then the body got sold, passed around to traveling carnivals, sideshows, wax museums for decades.
So his identity was just completely lost over time. People forgot he was real.
Exactly. The story of who he was eventually faded, and he was just assumed to be a particularly gruesome prop. After his macabre discovery by the film crew, they figured out who he was, and he was finally laid to rest properly in Oklahoma.
Wow.
Yeah, they even poured a layer of concrete over his casket to prevent him from ever becoming a traveling attraction again.
That's just, what a bizarre story. A real example of how history can get distorted and forgotten and literally put on display without anyone realizing.
Truly strange.
Okay. A variation on that theme, maybe, but even more unsettling because of its very public location. The tragic case of Elisa Lamb and the Cecil Hotel water tank. This one really gripped the internet for a while.
It absolutely did, and for good reason. Elisa Lam, she was a 21-year-old Canadian tourist. She went missing from LA's notorious Cecil Hotel back in January 2013.
The Cecil has its own dark history, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. A very dark history. So about 2 weeks after she disappeared, her naked corpse was found inside one of the hotel's 4 large water tanks on the roof.
How was she found?
A maintenance man found her. He was investigating complaints from guests about water pressure issues and, reportedly, odd-tasting water.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And then there was that deeply strange surveillance footage from the elevator on the night she disappeared, showing her acting erratically, pressing all the buttons, hiding, maybe talking to someone unseen.
That footage was incredibly disturbing.
Very. While the police ultimately deemed it a tragic accident, likely linked to her bipolar disorder, and health officials assured guests the water wasn't contaminated.
I'm not sure I'd feel assured.
Right. Understandably, guests were upset. The sheer strangeness of it all, combined with the hotel's already dark reputation, just cemented it as this modern, very real, very tragic urban legend.
Okay, wow. From these really macabre discoveries to things that just seem too bizarre, too outlandish to possibly be true, but somehow are.
Right.
This next one is maybe for anyone with a mild case of germophobia, or maybe just a general fear of urban animals.
You must be talking about rats in the toilet bowl?
Exactly. The legend. You lift the toilet lid and there's a rat staring back at you from the porcelain throne.
What's utterly fascinating, and let's be honest, horrifying, is how this seemingly outlandish fear actually has a concrete basis in plumbing reality.
Wait, really? It's actually possible for a rat to climb up the pipes into a toilet?
It is. Drain plumbing for toilets is typically 3 inches in diameter or more. That's plenty of space for a rat to navigate. They're excellent climbers. They can hold their breath for a surprisingly long time.
Oh, lovely.
And they're unfortunately attracted to sewage lines. There's even a documented case from Petersburg, Virginia, back in 1999, where an, quote, aquatic rodent bit a female victim's rump while she was using the toilet.
Ouch. Okay, that's enough detail.
Yeah. In Seattle, public health officials actually offer advice on what to do if it happens. Close the lid and flush. Keep flushing.
Close the lid and flush.
Yeah.
Got it. That's deeply unsettling knowledge to have. Okay, shifting gears dramatically. How about trying to literally fly in the most absurd way imaginable?
Larry Walters.
The man who actually made himself fly with balloons. This sounds like something out of a cartoon.
This one is just pure, unadulterated, true American eccentricity. It happened in the 1980s. Larry Walters tied 42 large weather balloons to a standard aluminum lawn chair. 42. And incredibly armed with sandwiches, beer, and a pellet gun, he just soared. He went up about 3 miles in the air, drifting for multiple hours over Long Beach, California.
How did he get down?
That's the ingenious, if slightly reckless part. He used the pellet gun to pop the balloons one by one to descend gradually.
You're kidding.
Not kidding. The only real hiccup was on the way down, some of the remaining balloons got tangled in power lines, causing a 20-minute power outage in the neighborhood.
Oops. Did he get in trouble?
He did get issued a $1,500 fine, but he also achieved brief international fame. He even appeared on The Tonight Show, a genuine one-of-a-kind flight of fancy.
What a character. Okay, and then there's the ultimate primal fear, right? Being buried alive. This legend of a woman buried alive, mangling her fingers, trying to escape. Octavia Hatcher. It's just horrific to even imagine.
It's a truly tragic story, and it likely fueled many similar fears and legends. This happened in the late 1800s. Octavia Hatcher fell ill, apparently with some unknown disease, and slipped into a coma. She was pronounced dead and, as was common then, swiftly buried.
Okay.
But then, less than a week later, other people in the same community started showing similar symptoms, falling into comas, but then they woke up.
Oh, no.
Exactly. Her husband became consumed with worry that she might have suffered the same temporary condition, that she had been buried alive. He ordered her exhumation. His worst fears were tragically confirmed. Octavia was found dead in her casket, but the inside of the coffin lid was scratched and torn, her face was contorted in terror, and her fingers were bloody.
That's just gut-wrenching. It makes you wonder how common that truly was back then.
Well, it highlights a grim truth about the limits of medical knowledge in that era, right? Without a modern understanding of comas or conditions like catalepsy, misdiagnoses of death, followed by premature burial, were an infrequent but a very real, terrifying possibility. It's no wonder such an event would embed itself so deeply into our collective nightmares.
Absolutely. Sometimes the truth behind the legend serves as a chilling warning. maybe about who you can trust or the dangers lurking in seemingly safe places. Take the frightening premise of Candyman, or what's sometimes called the medicine cabinet killer, this idea of a killer bursting through a medicine cabinet.
This one's particularly insidious because it attacks that idea of sanctuary, right? Your home, your bathroom even being a safe space.
Exactly. So what's the real story?
In 1987, a woman named Ruth McCoy, living in a Chicago housing project, made this frantic 911 call, insisting someone was breaking in, that she was being attacked. Responders arrived to find her dead from gunshot wounds.
And how do they get in?
Investigators figured out that her assailants had gained access to her apartment by literally breaking through the wall from an adjoining vacant apartment and climbing in through the opening behind her medicine cabinet.
Through the medicine cabinet? That seems like a bizarre structural flaw. Why would a building be constructed like that?
Apparently, the complex was built with these sort of service passages or connections between the bathroom walls, possibly intended for plumbers to access pipes easily between units.
But it created a vulnerability.
A huge one. Sadly, it became a known, terrifying mode of entry for burglars. And in Ruth McCoy's tragic case, her killers. It's a stark example of how a seemingly benign architectural feature could become a fatal vulnerability, giving a chilling reality to a seemingly fantastical horror movie trope.
That's deeply disturbing. And on a similar note, thinking about warnings, one of those classic warnings parents give their kids, which sadly is far too real, the fake cop trick.
You're absolutely right. This isn't just a story. There have been far too many documented cases of criminals posing as law enforcement officers to prey on victims who naturally let their guard down when they see a uniform or flashing lights.
Can you give an example?
Sure. There was a case in Bloomington, Illinois, where a man used flashing lights on his car to get another vehicle to pull over. He then tried, thankfully unsuccessfully, to overpower the driver.
Scary.
And another one in Fayetteville, Georgia, where a man actually donned a security guard type uniform and pulled over a teenage boy who was just riding his bike. He forced the kid to empty his pockets.
Wow.
It's a classic urban legend scenario that is, unfortunately, a legitimate and terrifying threat, which is exactly why those parental warnings and general vigilance are so important. Always ask for ID, call dispatch to verify if something feels off.
Good advice. These stories really stick with you, don't they? Okay, let's maybe wrap up with a couple of stories that seem to linger in the collective memory, tied specifically to certain places. Almost like the land itself remembers the tragedy or the strangeness.
One such place definitely is the Hoosac Tunnel in Massachusetts.
Hoosac Tunnel. Tell me about it.
Okay, this is a railway tunnel. Took 24 years to build in the mid-1800s, an incredibly dangerous project. Tragically, over 200 construction workers died during its construction.
200?
Yeah, it earned the grim nickname, the Blood Pit.
I can see why.
One specific incident really stands out. In 1868, there was an explosion that trapped 13 miners inside. They were initially assumed dead from the blast, but when rescuers finally reached them, it was discovered they'd actually survived the initial explosion, but then died slowly from poisonous gas inhalation.
Horrible.
Absolutely. And to this day, it's widely said that those 13 miners still haunt the tunnel. There are constant reports from workers and visitors of hearing painful cries, seeing ghostly apparitions. The history is just so steeped in tragedy, it's almost easy to see how the supernatural claims arose and persist.
Yeah, the weight of that history feels palpable. And then there's the legend of the Candy Lady from Texas. This one sounds like something straight out of a campfire story designed specifically to keep kids away from strangers.
It really does. The legend goes back to the early 1900s. Children in a rural area of Texas started going missing. Many residents blamed this figure they called the Candy Lady, who supposedly left candy on children's windowsills at night, sometimes with little notes trying to lure them outside.
Creepy. Is there any truth to it?
Well, the story gained really grim prominence when a local farmer reportedly found some rotten teeth near his property, and later the body of a young boy whose pockets were stuffed full of candy.
Oh, wow.
The most common belief, or the person most often linked as the inspiration, is a woman named Clara Crane. The story associated with her is that she poisoned her own husband and daughter using poison candy, was imprisoned for it, and then eventually released back into the community.
That's chilling. It's a stark reminder that the boogeyman isn't always some abstract monster. Sometimes it can be a seemingly ordinary person doing monstrous things.
Exactly. And for our final utterly bizarre but absolutely true story, let's talk about Bignose George Parrot.
Just the name alone. Bignose George was a story.
He was an old Wild West criminal, active in the late 1800s, pretty notorious for stealing horses, robbing stagecoaches, trains, and he also murdered a sheriff and a detective who were pursuing him.
Okay, so a real bad guy.
A real bad guy. Eventually, he was caught and hanged in Rawlins, Wyoming. After the hanging, nobody came forward to claim his body.
So what happened to it?
This is where the legend becomes undisputed, documented fact. 2 doctors who were present at the hanging asked for the body, ostensibly for medical study.
Okay, that sounds somewhat normal for the time.
Well, what they did with it wasn't quite standard medical procedure. They proceeded to skin the cadaver.
They
skin him and use the skin from his chest and thighs to make a pair of shoes and a medical bag.
You cannot be serious. They made shoes out of his skin.
They did. One of the doctors apparently wore the shoes. They also sawed off the top of his skull and gave it as a rather morbid gift to a young medical apprentice they knew. The rest of the body, they buried it unceremoniously in a whiskey barrel in the yard behind their office.
This is beyond macabre. Do the shoes still exist?
Unbelievably, yes. The shoes still exist today. You can actually go and view them at the Carbon County Museum in Rawlins, Wyoming, along with part of the skull cap.
That is astounding. A truly macabre footnote in history that just proves sometimes truth is far stranger and frankly more gruesome than any fiction you could invent.
Couldn't agree more.
So after all that, what does this all mean? We've journeyed through these tales of the strange, the macabre, the downright unbelievable, only to find them so often rooted in real events, real people, and often real tragedy.
It truly underscores how our fears, our anxieties, even our most bizarre curiosities aren't just figments of our imagination. They often spring directly from true experiences. Whether it's someone's tragic disfigurement, or unusual circumstances around a death, or even just incredible acts of human behavior like extreme reclusion or, skinning a corpse. These events happen.
And then they get amplified.
Exactly. They get amplified, exaggerated, maybe distorted over time as they're retold, but the core often remains shockingly, uncomfortably real.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What seemingly outlandish story might you hear next that, with just a little bit of digging, turns out to be not so outlandish after all? It highlights how our shared folklore isn't just about what we invent, but maybe more about what we collectively remember and what we fear based on real precedent.
And that raises an even deeper question, I think. In today's world where information and bizarre news stories spread like wildfire instantly, are we still creating new urban legends in the old way? Or are we just constantly, rapidly confirming the dark truths that were always lurking behind the old ones?
That's definitely something for you to mull over on your next late night drive, perhaps. Just remember to check your back seat.
And maybe check your toilet bowl, too. Just in case.
Good point.